As we continue to celebrate CKVR's 70th anniversary, let's do so tonight with a familiar face that was on this very desk for the better part of a decade. That is Tony Grace, the now anchor of CTV Kitchener. It's so fabulous to round out the week with you.
Sarah, thank you so much for having me. It's hard to believe that it has been now, let me see, 7 years since I've been on the desk at CTV Barrie. Of course, most of the time since then here at CTV Kitchener. You've seen me on CTV News Channel from time to time as well. But I can't go on any farther without saying hello to our loyal viewers of CTV Barrie. They are so warm and welcoming and dedicated to the show and to what it means to the community. They are the reason why we do what we do and why we've been doing it for 70 years.
Right. I certainly have felt that since the moment I arrived here in Barrie and joined the team. Now, I have to admit, a lot of the video that we've been rehashing and sharing with our audience throughout the week was dug up when you covered the 60th anniversary 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago this week, we went through decades and decades of footage. I spent an untold number of hours in the basement going through dusty shelves and old tapes and saying, does anyone have a machine where I can transfer this old format tape so we can watch it again? And it was a labor of love, Sarah. It was easily the highlight, one of the highlights of my entire 25-year career in television, because I knew that when I was going through all that footage, uncovering the history of the station and its connection with the community, that I was watching a legacy play out in real time as I went through those decades and decades of tape. And it really did tell the story of, as you said earlier this week, the bond that CTV Barrie has had with the community, the important beacon of information that it's been for Central Ontario for decades now.
It was a pleasure to watch your 60th anniversary coverage and certainly set the bar very, very high. Tony, you are great at what you do. Let's talk a little bit about your time being a reporter and anchoring for CTV Barrie. Are there some memorable stories that pop out?
Very many. I mean, when I walked into the door at CTV Barrie, I was a very fresh-faced, barely 30-year-old with a lot more hair than I have now. But it was one of those things where I knew I was walking into a legacy. I knew I had incredible shoes to fill, and I knew that I'd be working with some legends in the business: Jane Pritchard, Bob McIntyre, and of course I was taking over for Lance Chilton, who'd been the 6 o'clock anchor for decades. As you know, Sarah, when you take on a role like that, you take on a community ambassador role as well, and you take on a responsibility and a privilege that I know neither of us takes lightly. As we went through the years, there were celebrations, there were tragedies, there were triumphs, there were emergencies. We covered it all. And one of the biggest stories we covered when I was there was in 2014. It was June 2014 when a massive tornado swept through Angus. I think somewhere around 20 or 30 homes were destroyed. It leveled an entire neighborhood, and it was eerily reminiscent of the 1985 deadly tornado that tore through Barrie. And we decided we would take the 6 o'clock show on the road and do the entire thing live from the disaster zone in the neighborhood in Angus where that tornado had gone through. And I'm getting all this information in real time, and I'm passing it along to people. And you just realize at a point like that, in the middle of a tragedy, that we have a duty, and that duty is public service. And it really comes through at a time like that when the community is looking to try and make sense of something and understand what's going on around them.
Absolutely. We were just sharing some of those images, Tony, and sometimes it's difficult to find the words to explain, what you're seeing, but you've always been wonderful at that. And not only when it comes to your television work, but also your community contribution. Why has that been so important to you?
Because it's all about where we live and where we work, and we are people who serve our communities in a very unique way, but we are also people who shop at the same grocery stores and get gas at the same gas stations and shop at the same shopping malls and have families who get involved in the same organizations and causes. I was part of the inaugural year for the Barrie Waterfront Half Marathon, which became a major cause that I supported every year. Barrie Police had a Home Safe run as well that was in support of Alzheimer's research and support that I was part of. And also the Barrie Arts Awards were something that were just kind of coming into their own when I was there. Andrea Murray and I co-hosted that for several years together, really shining a light on the growing, burgeoning arts community in the city of Barrie and how it was coming into its own as the city got bigger and bigger. So having those touch points where I got to experience so much of the culture and recreation and the causes that were important to the community were moments that I took forward and still hold in my heart today, Sarah.
Yeah. You know, Tony, I think a lot of the memories that we make in this line of work, they often stem from the relationships that we, cultivate with our peers, whether that's offering mentorship or even having, that seasoned colleague guide the way. I see that you've carried on that torch. Why has that been something that you really wanted to do?
Because there were people who did that for me when I was a young kid like yourself from the Ottawa Valley who had a dream of one day doing broadcasting, being on television, sharing stories with the community. And two of those people were right there at CKVR, the legendary Jane Pritchard, who of course graced the airwaves for better part of 40 years with a degree of touch and class and professionalism that I've never experienced or witnessed in anyone else on the air. And of course, our incredible, incomparable weather presenter, Bob McIntyre, who helped us to understand the weather. As we know in Simcoe County and Muskoka, the weather, the snowbelt area, very, very important information to what we do every day. So learning from people like Jane and Bob made me want to make sure that I was passing along knowledge, but also experience and tips to the next generation of journalists, because we are here as a source of information, but we have a duty to uphold journalistic standards as well. And mentoring's always been big for me because I fully believe in paying it forward.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because, as you just mentioned, we're both from the Ottawa Valley. I truly have always looked up to you. In fact, I've seemingly been chasing your career. I don't know if you know this, but when you left A Channel Ottawa in 2010 to come to Barrie,
yes,
I was hired as your replacement, and then now here we are 15 years later.
It really is incredible, and it's one of those things where the industry has gotten so much smaller since you and I both started in the industry, and it makes it such a tighter family. And that's why working at CTV Barrie really helped me to understand on that level, in that city, what family was all about in this industry, just as I've understood here in Waterloo Region for the past 6 years, and over through my work at CTV National. We have a collection, a series of families in this business who love doing what they do because we show up for one another every day. And I think it is incredible that we do sometimes cross paths and follow in footsteps and overlap and just miss each other like ships in the night. Yeah. But it certainly reminds us of why we got into this in the first place. And that is not only for the viewers who watch us, but for the people here at work who we show up for every single day in the pursuit of carrying out that mission.
Tony, I think that seems like a perfect place to leave this conversation. I'm so glad that you could be a part of it because your legacy here at the station, it continues to live on.
I'm honored. Sarah, thank you so much, and hello to everybody. A lot of viewers from CTV Barrie still correspond with me today, and that's the other great thing with social media now is we make connections and relationships for life. And congratulations on all of your work at the station, Sarah, as well, and I know you know what a big legacy that place holds. It's bigger than either one of us, and it's going to be there for years to come.
Truly. Thanks, Tony. Now, we, of course, have offered quite a bit of coverage when it comes to the 70th anniversary, and you can revisit all of that on the CTV Barrie website.